Hello everybody, I'm a practicing therapist and I work with a lot of individuals with attachment wounds. Today I am going over a topic that has been brought up quite a bit. It's addressed a lot in my comment section, and I've made videos like this before, but I do know it's not the most common topic I touch on, so I wanted to make another video to clarify and for anybody who's a new viewer so they can kind of understand my perspective of this. And that is kind of the aspects and signs when an avoidant realizes that they emotionally hurt you in some way, right? And likely that they need to apologize or should apologize. Now, this is a tricky topic for avoidant individuals because a lot of them, they don't really like admitting that they hurt their partner because it makes them feel like they failed, and they're very sensitive to feeling like a failure. It's not an excuse, but it is genuinely one of the reasons. So sometimes what happens is because they're not accepting what they have done, they don't act in a way where they take accountability for what they've done. So I wanted to go over all of those aspects with you, but I want to bring up a lot of these. Some of them are more if you're healing, like a healed avoidant, and then some of them are probably not when they're healed. But any of these are a sign that they probably feel bad that they hurt you. And I think it's important to recognize the most common, this is anybody, right? The most common, not the most common, but a very common behavior when an individual feels guilty is they are quiet or withdrawn about the topic. And that also may include like avoiding eye contact, and they may even have a softer tone. So let's say you and your partner had an argument about, this just happened with one of my patients, and it happened a lot. So it's nothing specific, but like following, an account on Instagram, right? And every couple has their own rules, but this particular couple, they don't find it very respectful. At least they've established that now. Has not prior. They're a newer couple, right? And this happens in general, like newer couples. This is something that's not typically established. So let's say you're with your partner for like a year, and then you start to, you haven't brought this up before, but you don't really like when they follow certain accounts on Instagram. It makes you uncomfortable, and that's your right. It depends on who you guys are. I'm not going to make that call for you. Some people don't think it's healthy. Some people do. I personally don't care. So you guys make that call. But let's just say, avoidant partner was following a certain account that made you uncomfortable, made you feel bad. And they admitted, okay, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. I feel bad. They unfollow it, whatever. But every time this topic is kind of brought up a little bit, you can see that they're withdrawn or, they avoid eye contact. They may, not want to make you upset because they feel bad. They probably wish they didn't do that. It was probably nothing important to them, but they know they could have thought it through and thought maybe, my partner wouldn't have liked this or wouldn't have appreciated it. So they knew better and they feel bad about it. And it would be nice if they apologized, but at this stage, what we're talking about, it hasn't happened yet, but it's very important to recognize some avoidant individuals, sometimes they take longer to apologize. That doesn't mean it's not coming. It doesn't mean they're not going to apologize, okay? But they're more quiet or withdrawn about the topic. The next one is they cover up the topic quickly by introducing a new topic or sidestep it. So this is obviously, a lot of individuals find this very irritating and annoying because it makes them feel, as the partner who's not an avoidant, it makes you feel very dismissed and like they don't care, even though they probably do, but that's what it feels like, right? So let's just go back to that Instagram topic we just talked about, right? Somebody followed somebody, unfollowed, but they still feel guilty. They might say something like, I said I was sorry. I really don't want to talk about it. Or why do you keep bringing it up? Like, I know it was wrong, but I feel like all you're doing is just highlighting it on my wall of shame, whatever it is. And then they're like, I don't want to talk about it. You know how Instagram is, like, it's whatever. So they just try to remove these topics and they want to move on. I don't even like Instagram anymore. I'd rather, go fishing anyways. Like, what's this about? Like, why do we even have to talk about Instagram? Let's both just uninstall Instagram. So they're like really trying to cover up the topic because they're really hurt, actually. And they're afraid to take accountability because they don't want to admit that they're that kind of person, right? There's a part of them that feels really bad. They probably didn't do anything. I'm not saying that they're, they did anything. They were chatting this person up or sending DMs, nothing like that. But they just feel, avoidants are really, really sensitive. They really are. Avoidants are very sensitive to actually hurting other people, honestly. I know it doesn't seem like it, but it's true. and they're afraid to feel like a failure. So often they're making it a bigger deal than it is in their head, and they feel really bad about it. So that's why they introduce a new topic or try and cover it up. I said I was sorry. I don't want to talk about it, right? That's the way they're behaving. That doesn't mean that they're guilty of something. It might, but it doesn't always, right? It's typically that they just feel really bad and they need time to process. However, of course, you want to at one point have your partner apologize, because taking accountability is very, very important, right? I'm not saying that's not supposed to happen. It should, but I'm just giving you guys examples because some partners take longer to get there, okay? The next one is really common. Removes blame from themselves. I was having a really bad day. I didn't mean to yell at you. Like, I shouldn't have done that, but I had a bad day. I shouldn't have done that. But I promise I'm not like that. My boss just makes me like that. Okay. So maybe there's some truth to that, but it's probably not the whole truth, right? Removing blame from self in any form, right? I know I shouldn't have followed that Instagram girl, but you know what? All my buddies do it, so I got peer pressure. I know I shouldn't have done it. It was wrong of me, right? And so they're struggling to take accountability because they feel really bad. It's not anything to do with you. They feel bad, so they're lying to themselves, which in that way, they're removing the blame because they feel like they're not trying to trick you typically. That's not usually what it is. It's typically not a malicious intent. It's typically they just feel so bad. They're telling themselves that. I'm not saying it's an excuse, but that's why that behavior happens, okay? This one I see a lot, and sometimes it's like it's blurted out. I don't know how else to word it because it's not something they're comfortable admitting, but they often, especially at one point, they directly admit they don't like seeing you get upset. They don't like seeing you cry or be hurt. And they usually mean it in a way where they care about you, right? And they admit that this is what's been bothering them. You know, they may say, I really don't like seeing you cry. It makes me feel really bad. It makes me feel like I'm not good enough. It makes me feel, you know, like I could have done better. And I hate seeing you cry. It's why I don't like to admit things. Like sometimes they can be more open as as they heal and as they're prompted, they can really admit that the reason why they're denying some of these things is because they just don't want to see you get hurt even more. And they don't want to admit that they're the person that's done it. Not that it's an excuse. The next one, which is so common, they check in with your feelings, right? Are you mad? Are you still mad at me? Are you okay? You know, how are you doing? They're trying to check on how you're feeling without saying, I know you're probably mad and I'm sorry I did that. I really shouldn't have done that. They're trying to check in directly without accepting what they've done to some extent, but they also don't want you hurt, right? So they're checking. The other one is they bring up the incident unprompted. This can be in a more negative connotation where they're like upset about it and maybe they're crashing out about something and then they bring this up. Maybe in a good or bad way, right? Or they bring it up in a way where they're like, I'm reflecting. I probably shouldn't have, followed that Instagram person. I feel really bad. Or it could be, I don't know, Instagrams or something completely random. And they start saying like, I really can't stand Instagram. I hate social media. I never meant to follow that person, or I wish I never did. Like they bring it up unprompted, right? It kind of comes out of nowhere. So many avoidant individuals do that. They really, really do. And it's just important to recognize that by avoidant individuals doing that, it is a sign that they're getting there, but you don't want them to stay in that stage, right? You want them to eventually be able to process that they hurt you. And you can prompt it out of them a little bit and say, I know that it bothers you. I can tell, as long as you're not doing anything like that anymore, which I know you're not, don't worry. I'm not mad anymore. I want to move on. Right? Reassure them. And then they'll be more comfortable. And they'll be more comfortable admitting they make mistakes because they know you're not going to leave them. Right? The next one, and this is obviously when they're healing more, they're being more comfortable with you. They attempt to change issues that led up to this. So let's say getting angry or, I don't know, being inflexible, or this Instagram, topic that we've been sharing during this video. Maybe they really were peer pressured by their buddies, like genuinely, or they felt like they just wanted to fit in. That was the issue that led up to this. So they worked on it. Maybe you start seeing them set boundaries with their friends. You start seeing them stand up for who they really are, or stand up for you, in situations where you and this person's friends are around, right? So you're seeing those behaviors that led that occurred before this incident happens, which is a sign of very, a lot of consciousness and self-awareness on their part and growth, right? Because it's not just that they stopped following this person on Instagram. They're trying to make sure it doesn't happen again. And this does happen. It really does. The next one is they admit that they were wrong, right? That, I shouldn't have done that. I feel really bad that I hurt you. I know that this is something I could have known better, or maybe you guys have discussed it before, right? I shouldn't have done that. I was wrong, whatever it is, whatever their perspective is. The next one is that they apologize. Very simply, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I did that. I shouldn't have done that. I feel bad about it. I hope that you can forgive me. It allows them to feel vulnerable, but it also allows them to feel like they're, able to make mistakes. And it's very important, because if an avoidant individual is not comfortable making mistakes, they are going to struggle healing. Because part of the way I heal these attachment wounds is they have to be comfortable with uncertainty in general, but also recognizing that they can come back from failure. A lot of avoidants are very rigid, and it's because they're afraid of uncertainty. So that's just a little random tidbit, but it's important to recognize admitting that you're wrong is a really important step to healing avoidant attachment. They make efforts at connecting, such as initiating conversation, physical closeness, or shared activity. So this is fine, but typically I see this more when they haven't admitted what they've done, and so they're overcompensating, right? And so they're initiating more conversation. They're being more physically close. They're, asking you to hang out with them more. And that's good, but it's probably more healthy if they address what's really bothering them, because they're trying to say, I know I made a mistake, please don't leave me, right? It would be much better if they just said it, though. And the last one is if you ask them that they want to change, they will say yes. And usually it's because they feel bad that they hurt you, okay? You can even ask them, do you feel bad that I got hurt? But avoidant individuals, especially when they're close to somebody, they will admit how they feel. And it's important that if they do say it, that you don't, say they're just saying it to make you feel better. It's very likely they're not. So that's just something to remember. I hope this video makes sense. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.